It was a cold winter night on the 21st of December. I was 19 years old. My dad had passed away a few years ago, and I was left with the job of running the farm. I had to step up and fill his shoes as the farmer to keep food on the table for my mom and I. That night, my mom decided that we needed to add more presents to the pile we already had. We left the house to do some last-minute Christmas shopping. We arrived at the store around 7 p.m. and bought the gifts we needed. The ride back home was long and tiring. The gravel roads weren't cleared, so we had to drive along slow and cautiously. We finally pulled into our road that led to the house. When we stopped in front of the house, we ran inside to get out of the cold. I hung the keys on the nail right next to the door and got ready for bed. "Art, wake up!" My mom screamed. "I smell smoke!" I bolted upright in my bed and ran to my mom's room to find out what she was screaming about. "Mom, what'd you say?" "I smell smoke." "Right, I'll go down to the storage room to see what's going on," I told her. She gave me a concerning look and said, "Just hurry." I flew down the stairs and checked the storage room. There wasn't any smoke in there. Next, I went to the ground floor to see if there was any smoke in there. When I opened the kitchen door, I was hit with a wall of smoke. My lungs felt like they were on fire. It was so hard to breathe. I fell to the floor, coughing my lungs out. I forced myself up, slammed the door, and ran upstairs to get my mom. We ran down the stairs to the bedroom on the first floor. Since that was the only way to get out of the house, every other way was blocked. I had to kick out a window. Once I had crawled out, I turned back to help my mom. I searched wildly for a warm place for my mom to stay while I tried to figure out what was happening. Finally, I decided to have her wait in the car. The keys to the car were still hanging on the nail in the kitchen, so she couldn't have the heater on, but at least she could stay somewhat warm. After she was settled in the car, I wanted to look into the house to see what was making the smoke. I opened the porch door and felt the heat on my face. I resisted the urge to turn back and treaded further into the house. I went to check the kitchen again, and there was still a bunch of smoke in there. So I figured that the stove was causing all the smoke. I ran over to the barn to search for some pails. When I found them, I ran over to the water spout and quickly filled them up. After that, I ran back inside and opened the kitchen door. Again, I was hit with the wall of smoke. I flew through the kitchen to the stove and poured the buckets onto the stove. Nothing, not even a simmer. I still didn't know what was causing the fire, so I thought I should have the neighbor call the fire department. I looked for the keys on the nail. They were still there. I was about to grab them when I remembered that they would burn the flesh off my hands. So the next option would be to take the tractor. I pulled out of the barn and rammed it into high gear. The neighbor's house was about a half a mile away. When I arrived, I pounded on their door, but could not wake them. So I jumped on the tractor and took off for the other neighbor's house. I screamed and hollered for them to wake up. They both came to the door and wondered what was going on. I told them what was happening, and his wife ran back inside and rang up the fire department. The firehouse was about 8 miles away from our farm, so it would be a while. By this time, I could see the flames from the house leaping in the air. He offered to take me back to the farm, and we left. When we got back to the farm, there was nothing left of the house, just a hot blaze. I walked over to my mom, and she was on her knees crying. We had just lost everything, the pictures of my father, the presents for the family, and our home. We would never get anything back. For the first week, we lived with our neighbors, and then we had a trailer moved into the farm. My mom and I lived in that trailer for about 4 years until the new house was built. At first, the new house didn't feel much like home. It took a while getting settled and feeling cozy again, but after a few months, it got better. But it never did feel the same as the old house.